what I'm gonna Good morning, IL Texas. So proud to have you here with us today in order to celebrate Veterans Day. Veterans Day is celebrated on November 11th. We had a conflict, but we did not want to let this very important day pass without a special presentation for you. Veterans Day is a very near and dear celebration to my heart. I have family members who have served this country as far back as the Revolutionary War, and as recently as the war in Vietnam. So without further ado, thank you to everyone, both within our organization and the family members who have served our country. Ganje ne ni due quagia de fu Jean. Gracias por su servicio.
Thank you for your sacrifice and service to our nation.
Good morning, International Leadership of Texas, Garland High School. Today we celebrate Veterans Day, held on 11 November each year to honor all those currently serving or having served in the U.S. military. Veterans Day is different from Memorial Day, which honors and mourns the military personnel who have died while serving the U.S. Armed Forces. I am Lieutenant Colonel Chris Fears, the Senior Marine Instructor for the Marine Corps JRTC here at IL Texas Garland High School. I am the son of a Marine who served in the Vietnam conflict. My grandfathers both served during World War II, and I have greats that also served during the Civil War. I took up the same oath to the United States Constitution and was blessed for serving for 26 years in the Marine Corps, from private to lieutenant colonel, from the Middle East to Asia, Europe, and other locations around the globe. During that time, I have had the pleasure of working alongside great Americans from all over this country, as well as many wonderful people from other countries. Men and women that have entered the U.S. military from all different backgrounds, cultures, and all for different reasons. They share one important thing in common: their love of this country, their families, each other, and their willingness to protect it. Today, we honor them. Students and staff of IL Texas, we will begin with our Veterans Day video presentation, which also includes a word from Mr. Conger. Then we will follow with our guest speaker, Mr. Jason Owens, or Sergeant Owens, who will talk to you about what it is like to be a veteran and some of his experiences. And now the video.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers. Appointed over me. According to regulations. And the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Howdy students, parents, and staff. I'm Eddie Conger, the founder, CEO, and superintendent of International Leadership of Texas. I wear many hats, as all of you do, but one of the hats that I have the privilege of wearing is a hat of a United States Marine. And this hat is representing the retired United States Marine. The Marine Corps, the few, the proud, the Marines. I did have an opportunity to serve in the United States Marine Corps for 20 years. I went to school at Texas A&M University and had the privilege of having lots of classmates. And this year, November the 11th, we of course are celebrating Veterans Day. And I want you to think of the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Because several of my classmates at A&M, like Kelly Castleberry, John Nesbitt, Bobby Cox, some of my Marines, like Brian Lane and Christian Porter, we celebrate those Marines on Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a time to remember those who have lost their life in sacrifice to this great country. It goes along with the saying of all gave some, but some gave all. That's Memorial Day. But today we're celebrating on November the 11th, we're celebrating Veterans Day. And that's for all of us who have served in the United States military. Not just me and the fellow Marines, but the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. All of those veterans have served this country and have served to protect the Constitution of the United States. And that is the day that we celebrate those folks. And it originated back in World War I. At the end of the war, the peace treaty, if you will, was going to end on the 11th month, November, on the 11th day, November the 11th, and the 11th hour. At that moment, World War I ended. And that has been a time of celebration, and those celebrations have evolved into Veterans Day. Students, you may or may not even know that you have veterans within your family, somewhere in your family tree. And I would encourage you to ask your parents to talk to them, because you, I'm sure, have veterans somewhere. And you may not be aware that some of our teachers and our staff have served in the United States Marine Corps. The Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, veterans in all the different services. So I just wanted to say happy Veterans Day to all of those veterans out there. And I want to tell you students, thank you for being part of the IL Texas family. Thank you for understanding servant leadership. Thank you, and have a fantastic IL Texas Day.
Great video. Thank you, Mrs. Shaw, for putting all of that together. We're about to turn it over to Sergeant Owens. He grew up here in Garland, and served in the Army from 2005 to 2013, having combat tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. After he was discharged, he also attained his master's in education. So with that, Sergeant Owens, take it away.
Sergeant Owens, you're mute. And the screen you're sharing is the video.
Okay. All right. So good morning. My name is Sergeant Owens. I was, sorry about the technical difficulty. So as Colonel Fierce said, I grew up here in Garland, and I spent 7 years in the Army with tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. My opportunities also had me in places in the United States, Europe, and the Far East. And so once I finished tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, some of my duties in Iraq and Afghanistan included key leader engagements, meeting with local officials. And it was in one of those meetings that I had with a local official that I had an opportunity to meet with a local school that my unit had adopted. And part of our job was to help rebuild, interact with the students, the teachers, and give them a sense of what can we do for you? How can we help you rebuild? I had students that were these young kids who were in elementary school. We had kids that were all grades in one building that unfortunately during the previous conflict between Iraq and Iran it had been shelled by artillery, so it didn't even have a roof. But yet here were all these students who were just happy to be going to school, and what they were doing was they actually had chalk and they were writing on the floor. They were writing on walls. They were writing on anything that they could. And so, but yet they were still so happy to be in school. They were still so happy to be learning. And then here my unit came in, and what we did was we donated school supplies. We helped them to rebuild. Some of the construction crews came in and gave them a roof. We brought in tables, chairs, and things for them to learn on. And then once a month, we would bring in school supplies from charities from overseas. So we would bring them very simple things like pencils, paper, backpacks, things like that. And they would be so enthused to get these things. They would have these things that they'd never had before. And they were so excited about it. And to see, and we were being told that this was the first time that girls had been able to go to these schools because the families had been worried about sending their girls to school. And so this was the first time a lot of these girls, they would be the first girls in their families to go to school and get an education. And so to see the joy and the joy of learning that these students had shown really gave me a sense of, I would like to be a part of this once I finished my time in the Army. Another instance in Afghanistan, we actually opened a girls' school in a very remote mountain village in northeastern Afghanistan. This was the first time in the history of this area that girls had been allowed to go to school. And so seeing the joy, seeing the hunger, seeing the love of learning in these students overseas inspired me that once I finished my tours in the Army and then once I would go to school, attain my teaching certificate and become a teacher as well, because I saw that the commonality that no matter where we were from, no matter what languages we spoke, there was always this thirst for knowledge, this interest in learning and getting and growing and getting this opportunity and seeing the opportunity that my daughter has. As my daughter she's a sixth grader at the K-8, and to see her every day learning with students from all over the world. And so I feel like that once I made that transition from the Army to teaching, I was able to bring in that hoping to spark that sense of hunger for knowledge, that wanting to interact with people from other places. And for me, becoming a teacher, I wanted to bring that spark to my students as well, to get them, could always feed that hunger for more knowledge, the hunger to be better, because many of my students are, we're all learning together in an environment that encourages us to all feed off that hunger, to feed off that want of learning, that want of knowledge, that want to grow and develop. And so that has instilled in me, a sense that each day that I come to school, that I want to always encourage that hunger, that thirst for knowledge, that wanting to develop, to see that, we have, so many students from so many different places, that here we are together. We have such a unique opportunity to learn from each other, to learn that the commonality with us is no matter where we're from, we may be an international school, but the one thing that has been a constant with the students that I've encountered in Iraq and Afghanistan, and encountered in the school that my daughter attends, and encountering here, the commonality is we all want to learn, we want to know, we want to grow and develop no matter where we are. So to me, that is a common, simple language that we can all learn, no matter if we're learning right now, we're all learning Spanish, Chinese, and English. But for me, the common language that we're all learning is the language of education, the language of learning, the language of development. And so for me, I've been able to apply my leadership skills in the military to hope to guide and nurture, develop future leaders in any class, regardless of what we are in. Economics, because we're going to have future leaders we're sending off our students to be future leaders. And so using the basics from the military has helped me to instill and develop and grow those leadership skills, that sense of we're going to be world changers, we're going to be in charge of things. And so I'm hoping that we will be able to pass on that hunger, that thirst, that always wanting that lifelong love of learning, lifelong learning of development. And so I just want to thank Ms. Marks, Colonel Fears, Ms. Lynn, and Ms. Shaw for allowing me to speak today. And it's been a privilege to come here today. And I thank you again for allowing me to share some of my experiences and my experiences here at IL Texas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Owens. We appreciate hearing all about your experiences and insight. So we have about 5 minutes left in this session. And one of the things you're going to do today during leadership is you have an exit ticket where you're going to fill out a Google form, and it's going to be a letter to a veteran. Now, we're going to take these throughout some of the veteran centers in Texas. And so we're going to distribute it. Many of these centers are not only for current veterans that have been wounded, but also veterans from wars in the past. And they go to these centers to seek help, both for body and mind. And getting letters like this is very, very important to them, and it touches their lives. Some of them have no family. And so any sort of letter that you can write to them will definitely raise their spirits and make them feel a little bit better about any words that you provide. So please, I encourage you, when you fill out this Google form, and it was sent to you in email, just be respectful, and you don't have to list your name or anything like that. I would encourage you just to have a little conversation and just ask some questions about them, and they would like to hear from you about your day and some of the things that you're doing. That makes them very happy. So it's an exit ticket in your leadership class. And I just want to say to all the veterans out there and your family members that are veterans, happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service. And with that, I'll turn it over back to Ms. Marks.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Fears. Thank you, Sergeant Owens. Thank you to everyone who has served. Thank you to the family members who have also sacrificed for our veterans who have served. Students, thank you for sharing your experiences with those who are currently serving our country and those who have served our country. And thank you, Ms. Lynn and Ms. Shaw, for helping to organize this. I hope you have a fantastic